Thank you. All right, I will call this meeting of the Durham Board of Selectmen on September 13th to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay.
Recite the Constitution.
I have an amendment to the agenda. We're gonna remove the assessors session. We need a little bit more clear information from our assessors agent on context of what's actually going on there. So, town manager's gonna work on getting that for us. And we will need the executive session at the end for a discussion of personnel matters at the request of the town manager. Any other amendments to the agenda? Nope. Okay. All right, we are at the public comment section. Is there anybody here for a public comment? Yeah, that'd be you, big guy. That'd be you, yeah, if you are, come, please sit at this table and state your name and where you live, please.
Why did I speak up? Richard Merrill. We've had a few meetings with me and Chad Burke on reinstating and bringing back the old homes days. This is a flyer that we found at the AMVETS back from '79. Kind of want to run it the same-ish way, keep it the old school, small town, little fair. We've had a few meetings, met a few people. We've come up with some talking points. Obviously, today's not going to be the time, but was looking for the support of the town and potentially to discuss any options, any concerns eventually. We have not picked a date. That's still up in the air because obviously we're going to need to, obviously the support of the town, but.
Well, tell us a little bit more about what you're thinking. Are you thinking this is this an AMVET sponsored thing or is this a town sponsored thing? Tell me a little bit more.
We're hoping town sponsored, with the support from the AMVETS, the Fire Department Corporation, which is the separate entity from the town fire department.
Yep.
And any other nonprofit that's willing to help. We plan on splitting the money. That way everybody gets a small chunk of the pie. We're looking for 3 days like it used to be, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Looking at the field right behind us, or right over here, between the Eureka and the town hall, to do the events. We've talked to a few amusement park companies to have small rides, get some food trucks, a parade, a couple of live bands, maybe a comedian, have stuff all weekend.
Yep. My initial thought is that that you would probably need to put together some sort of a plan or proposal that details out a lot of what you
Yep.
Just said. Basically whatever you're thinking the event would be, write it out almost like a little business plan, right? Like, we're thinking 3 days, and we're thinking these amusements or comedian or bands and where you think they'd be set up. It needs to be pretty detailed on. So basically, you need to come to us with a proposal.
Okay.
And then we can, consider what the proposal is, and then include, what you think the town's role would be in terms of like if you're looking for funding or, or whatever. Yeah, that would be my reaction. Other questions or comments or.
I think it's a great idea, especially if we get. One year they had the circus here.
Yep.
That was pretty cool.
When did they do it?
It's been a while
I know they
because
had
I've
a
been
circus
here.
here in '03.
Yeah.
Because I had friggin' elephants on Patriot Way walking down my road one morning and it freaked me out.
You remember that? 03.
2000. Yeah, well, I mean, how much?
Elephants.
When the last time an elephant walked by your road?
That would leave an impression.
So, It's been done. I think it's a great idea. I maybe even just to further, Kevin, just lay out the logistics of it as far
Yeah.
as like parking, et cetera, because that,
Yeah.
especially that field back there. I mean,
Yep.
there's only so much space before you run out of space.
Yeah, it's a pretty. I mean, I tell you, I've lived in town over 20 years, and we've never had old home days. I think in the time I've lived here. So when you were first talking about it, what popped into my head was much smaller than what you then went on to describe, which is great. But I think that now we've got. There's just a lot to it, as I'm sure you know. I mean, there's public safety and public
Yep.
works and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I think we're open to reviewing ideas or whatever and
Okay.
proposal, but that needs to be I think it needs to be an actual proposal.
Okay, yep. Just the first stop, I wanted to
Yeah.
make sure we're
Yeah,
close to the same page.
Does it need to go to vote to the voters at all?
I don't think it depends on what you're asking for, I guess. I mean, I don't think so. If it required funding, like that's not budgeted, then yeah, it would need to go.
I think the funding,
Yeah, to add your name to the.
Chad Burke, Pinkham Brook Road. I think the primary, as far as for the town portion of it, funding, I'm not think we're looking for that, other than, I think primarily would be use of the land to have it on, and the insurance portion of it. As far as the fundraising goes, we've already, again, we met with several times with some other groups, but breaking down in different committees to take care of all the fundraising and the organizing and stuff like that. We have
Here's one
already,
first.
we already have a detailed, written up plan, not in the form of a business plan.
That
or
doesn't need to
proposal,
be a,
but
but it needs to be like detailed list, like what you just said. We want
everything you've mentioned already is on there.
Yeah.
But financially, the only risk at stake would be the insurance portion of it, and then having it on the land here, and the town support obviously would be the big part of that. So I've been here since 8, and I haven't. And maybe they must have had things. If it was Circus in 03, then I don't
I'm saying
know.
it was old home. I don't know if it was classified as that.
Yeah.
I think it was a separate event that somebody
Oh,
just
perhaps.
brought in over here. By the Reeds.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
And it could have been, my kids were way young and weren't part of this part of the town at that point, I don't believe, so, but could have been,
So
yeah.
the last one stopped at the bicentennial. They were raising money to do a big fireworks show, and that's why it stopped. Once they hit the bicentennial, they did a fireworks show, and then they were, all right, we're done. But we were hoping to bring it back to grow the community and to.
Yeah, I think.
And then picking a nonprofit, with some of the proceeds from that and donating it to a nonprofit here in town. AMVETS, no, we don't want any profits from that, proceeds from that. Although we want to be a major player in the game of setting it up and making it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think. I don't know. I mean, there's no decision to be made
Sure,
here
yeah.
tonight. I mean, it's just. I think. Thank you for letting us know that you're going down that road, and look forward to seeing what you come up with.
So the next step for you guys would be to bring in a formal proposal with,
Well, I think you need to be pretty like if you want to use, town land, and you're looking to be on town insurance. Yeah, it needs to be like really detailed. Like what's going to be where and when. It probably, and especially I can only imagine what our insurance company is going to want. Probably diagrams of where everything's going to be, how you're going to manage traffic, how you're going to manage parking, how many, what's your plan for, food, what's your plan for trash, what's your plan for traffic control, all that stuff. It's certainly not at the scale, but if I was in your shoes, I would reach out to somebody like Yarmouth Clam Festival Committee,
Exactly.
something like that, and ask on a smaller scale. The process is going to be the same, but the scale will be smaller. Like, what do they have to do? And there's probably various, permits that are going to be required.
right.
Because we've got state roads involved here, there might be some state approvals that might be required. I don't know, but
Definitely more
big
shock than
thing.
sheriff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Check with Harrison, town of Harrison has an Old Home Days, they've had
Casco
it.
has one bath.
Yeah,
Yeah, I get-
and they're about this size, right?
Right, yeah,
It's
Casco,
kinda-
Harrison, yeah.
And their space allotted, like in Harrison at the end of Crystal Lake is about the same size what you have out back here, and they do quite a bit, there, but it's,
Yeah.
some of the smaller towns like that.
Yeah, and that's what rather, it's
they-
the smaller
I mean,
towns.
Yarmouth is definitely a good idea
Yeah, I know,
too,
but yeah, but I think you had some even better examples. you
Yeah,
know,
and I don't know how they do it. I know they have a committee
Yeah.
in Harrison, and I don't know if it's fully, I thought it was again, the businesses that did it themselves, and they used the town land. I don't know how they all work
Yeah,
that out.
'cause-
The logistics are the same, though. Yeah.
Can we get them information on what the insurance company would need? Is that something? Because that's,
I think we could make an initial inquiry, say, hey, we've got a group that's interested in doing this type of event, what would you need?
Right.
no,
Right.
You know, but, you know, and actually for, what would help that is like, I think if you drafted a letter to the town manager and just at a high level said, you know, we're exploring putting together this type of event and just kind of briefly outline what you're thinking and what your ask is of the town. Like, we want to be able to do it on, you know, these pieces of town property and, but we would need to be on the insurance and whatever that means, like
Right.
level of coverage or whatever. What would you need from us? And then we can go to the insurance company and they can tell you.
yeah, 'cause, I mean, I think it's a great idea. I wouldn't wanna help you do it, cause it sounds like a lot of work, but it's a great idea.
It's a lot of work already, yeah, I know. And that's the whole purpose of, first of all, is if the town's on board, and then we're
That's
like
good
this
stuff.
far away from breaking down all the committees out right now and getting all hands on deck.
Did you have a target date you were?
Initially, we did.
We're interested in the first weekend in August, because that's what that shows, and that's what it used to be.
Okay.
And we want to try to, but we're open to anything. We're willing to adjust just to get it going.
We're partially at the mercy of a carnival, whichever one it is that we choose.
And what dates they have open?
Yeah.
Correct, yeah. Right now, I've got a couple out, some feelers out there, and I'm waiting for some callbacks
Yep.
on some
Yep.
dates.
The week before the Bloom Festival.
It's the Harrison Friendly Riders Snowmobile Club that puts it on there.
Harrison, say again, Friendly Riders?
Harrison Friendly Riders Snowmobile Club. That's who put on Old Home Days this past year.
And, sorry, go ahead.
You will, you wanna reach out to the main DOT,
Yeah.
as the chairman said, if there's gonna be any impact at all to their roads,
Yeah,
that they're gonna have some
Right.
say in how you do it, if you can even do it.
yeah.
Mhm.
That's on our list, because the parade used to run from Davis Road
Mm-hmm.
to the school.
To school.
So that's shutting that down for a couple hours. That is on the list of contacting them to make sure that it's
Memorial Day parade.
acceptable.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
Memorial Day
And there's a
parade.
protocol that they have.
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah, so Durham's not shrinking, it's getting larger, and we're getting a lot of new
Mm-hmm.
people who don't know each other. And being part of the committee might bring some together, having the event would be,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that one was small compared to.
And I've talked to Billy St. Michel, who ran it for the last 6 or 7 years before it, and he's willing to let me pick his brain, help him out as much as, or help us out when he's available with his busy schedule,
Yeah, right.
and then go from there.
That's great. Yeah, so when you guys are ready, again, to talk again, if you need to come to a meeting, then just, reach out to the town manager and get on the agenda.
Okay.
Because, I mean, there's hardly anybody here tonight, so we could be pretty lax with public comment, but this was really an agenda item and
Oh,
should have been
gotcha.
on the agenda.
Okay,
You know, public
sorry.
comment is like, hey, I'm upset about this, or I like this, and that's it, move on. But
Right.
we had a full-blown discussion, and that's fine, there's like nobody here tonight or whatever, but,
We like these conversations.
yeah. So, but just, we'll get you on the agenda, just reach out to the town
Back to
manager
grievances.
when you're ready
Right.
again, so.
okay, no, fantastic.
Great, thanks for, man, you guys are biting off a lot.
The plan looks good, Chad.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Lots to be
Good
done.
start.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Real good stuff.
Okay, any other public comment? No, everybody else is here because they have to be. Well, except for you, John, you didn't have to be. But okay. Reports from the fire chief is up first tonight.
Oh, can we
Oh,
have-
do you want Calvin first? Check that. I'm just going by the order on the agenda.
I
tried to.
Does everybody have one of these?
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't think Todd does. Is Todd graduated? Or is it in his packet?
Put it in this packet.
Okay.
Got it.
All right. So, been ditching up on Auburn Pownell and Stackpole, and tree cutting, brush cutting up there. We've been up crack sealing. If you guys have probably seen us go by,
Yeah.
filling in those cracks so the water doesn't get in there and freeze. And
I didn't know what the hell you guys were doing. I'm like, why is that guy walking down the road with an air hose spraying the road? What the hell is he doing that? And that-
you gotta blow the dirt out of the
Something
cracks,
to
and then you gotta fill it with
Something to do.
crack sealer. So, we're gonna be doing it again next week, so, and a lot of gravel road repair, ditching, shoulder work due to the heavy rain activities over the summer, still working on that. I spoke with Tony Bolio from the MDOT about the Tracy Brook Bridge, Pinkham Brook Road, and he said that was likely going to bid in November, and should start construction. And I used the words likely and should because that was what he said. So
Yeah.
that was what I got for an answer. So that's why I'm just
That's what's supposed to happen this year.
yeah. So I think it was, but it got moved, and so who knows? Next year it could get moved again, but that's where it is right now. So just got a hold of Rob Betts, regional engineer, and he did send back an email and said that they are putting up the advanced warning lights for the intersection of it's Rose's Corner, Route 9, Swamp, and Plymouth Mill Road. I do see they have a dig safe. I've seen they've been out there doing some survey work and got it. According to the email, it's being done last week of this month. So we did Crooker paved Stackpole. We've got from 136, a mile and a half up to number 311, and they'll be back later this month or first of next month to get the remainder of the paving. Hopefully prices keep dropping. Next Wednesday, 21st, I'll be in Bangor all day for training for drug and alcohol compliance program. And,
Is that just you or the whole department?
it's just me, yeah.
Where are they paving next?
We're going to Bowie Hill from Stackpole up to where we left off the rebuild last year over the hill.
Over the top?
Over the hill.
Yeah, at what's that road on the left that Parker Schoolhouse Road. So that's what I've got.
Last meeting, we had a couple of questions for Cal. Oh, update on, like how you feeling about staffing for winter, plows and drivers and all that?
Looks good.
Yeah.
We had everybody we had last year. And,
Really?
I did check on the new plow truck today. Got a build date starting October 28th. Should be delivered to Freightliner in Portland, Westbrook on the November 13th. And then they'll have it for a few days, get extended up here. Goes to Lewiston, Viking Surveys, and they'll have it for a month or two.
So we get it maybe in the middle of the winter?
We'll get it maybe as soon as you might have it, January, mid-January probably is about the soonest, I would think. Which is what I've been expecting all along.
Okay, so you're feeling okay with
Yep.
working with what you've got until then?
Yep. We'll pump that one dinosaur along further.
And are we trading that towards
Yeah,
the
yeah.
new truck? Yeah, that's what I thought, okay.
So when you trade it, does it go the time you take they take delivery, or when you take delivery?
When I
from
take
Viking?
delivery of the new truck, yeah.
From Viking?
Yeah. We don't even get an invoice until Viking's done with it, so.
Oh, okay, that's nice.
So it'll get paid for next year, and that's something we're gonna have to figure out. That's how that goes into the.
Well, we'll just encumber the funds and carry
Okay.
them over, so.
All right, because
Well,
we gotta remember that $3,800 add-on that was added to the.
it's all coming out of capital, right? Anything at this point? No, it was voted to raise, I think. So we will need to encumber it. If it was capital, we wouldn't need to, but if it was part of if it was raised funds, then we'll need to encumber it and carry it over.
We just gotta
It's fine, we can do that.
Just put that on your list before the end of the year to remember that, so we don't.
Okay. Anything, any other questions or?
No.
for Cal?
Who's looking at that? The Auburn Pownell looked really good. I was up that way the other day. Came out nice, all the ditching and stuff.
Oh.
We hit a couple of spots of ledge, we're gonna have to go back and break that out so the water can run.
There was a hole right in front of my house. You don't know how nice it is to not hear every car hit that every time they go over it.
Well,
So nice. It's so quiet. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Sure you'll think of something.
Sleep later in the morning.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Calvin. Thank you.
Thanks, Colin.
Chief.
Oh, they got that part of the packet. So the good news is you've actually already been briefed on everything but the middle section from last time. It says to all members, so when we do a corporation night meeting, like last week, this is actually what I give to the corporation. So I thought it was timely and to just pass it on to you all. But it's all the same information, so there's nothing hidden or, in the middle, though, this is what they get. We responded to 34 calls for service for August. That was 6 MVAs, an appliance fire. We did go to the second alarm fire over in Topsom. I think that was Grimmel's. We did have a carbon monoxide incident with readings. We did, as I informed you last time, send an ambulance to that MCI in Sabattis. We did assist Topsom with their water rescue and recovery. And then most recently, we had a possible water rescue on our side in the middle of the river with a canoe overturned. It ended up being some duck hunters that in an island overturned their canoe. Some people went by, good intent. We launched a boat and then got the game warden sort of involved, if you will. That was a learning experience for me. You know, guns in the river, shooting towards the road, that's their sort of specialty. But it was a 911 call for an overturned canoe. So Lisbon was standing by.
Hunters.
Yeah, first day of either duck or goose.
Goose,
Don't
okay,
don't
goose.
quote the fire
All
chief.
right,
All right, it was goose.
those guys.
It was some flying birds. I don't know, but I was more worried about the canoe.
Yeah.
Real quick, I wish Calvin stayed. We do owe him a thank you to all his crew. They assisted us recently with our septic issue, finding it, bringing it up sort of to code, pumping it, that type of stuff. So
That was
team
just
effort.
replaced last year or the year before.
It was added on to, but we needed to pump, you know, the existing standard 2-year pumping,
Maintenance
but
thing,
we
yeah.
needed to sort of raise some of
Okay,
the levels over there. They took care of
all
it.
right, great.
There's a grant cycle, as you know, we're always in the grant cycle. We just applied to 3,000. I have 3 other people writing up to $250,000 grants. And we have a lead on roughly 5,000 up to 10 matching for repair of our brush truck.
Okay.
So instead of using any of our repair funding for capital, we found a local grant for that.
Great.
Foam system, that type of upgrades, that type of stuff. And as far as the budget, you know, we should be at 66% roughly. I'm at 59 spent. So we're right on pace. I've been going with the town manager about just concerns or learning or
Yep.
future or that type of thing. So I think we're all on the same page.
Yep, budget season will soon be
Oh,
upon us.
we were meeting
Actually,
today.
it is upon
We
us,
were
right,
meeting
for you
today.
guys, yeah. Yeah.
Other than that, I think that's all that I have for you. But I am going to stay just for ARPA talk and any questions
Yep.
you may have.
Any board
Anything?
members have questions or comments for the
No
chief?
questions are good.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
I won't much.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. John Talbot, 636 Stackpole Road, the part of the road that is not getting new pavement. But it's in good shape. And I'll tell you another father-in-law story. When they first paved that road, probably 30 years ago, my father-in-law was so mad because he would move his cows from one part of one field to another. And he was convinced that people would go flying like bats out of hell down there if it wasn't a dirt road. So
That's the cycle of roads. They complain when it's bumpy and whatever, and then they complain when it's paved because people are going too fast.
then he was on the budget committee, he complained wherever they spent money, so, well, thank you. So I just want to take a few minutes, talk about the planning board and what we've done or not done over the last month or so. So we'll start with the easy one. The Celebration Tree Farm came in a couple of months ago, and they have asked for some non-conforming use back in July. And it was a little confusing exactly what they were asking for. So they've been working, we postponed them, or they asked for a continuance from August. They're gonna come back in, or from September, come back in October. And they've been working with town planner to kind of sort that stuff out. Talked to Chief and Calvin and code enforcement. They're working with them on, because one of the things they want to do is use the barn for weddings and other things. So those folks are looking at barn fire safety and road safety and parking, and that's all being coordinated. I think that the town, that your staff has done a great job working with us, and a couple of subdivisions and other things have come through. So their input has been great and timely and all those kinds. So, so Celebration comes back. If their ducks are lined up, there'll be a site walk. It's on the 5th of October is our next meeting. Site walk at 5 p.m. and then the regular meetings at 6:30. And if they're ready, we'll have a public hearing at that time. So that's Celebration. Deer Creek, which is a 13-lot subdivision down past the school. That got preliminary plan approval at our last meeting, and so the next step for them is final plans, and they're in the process, so we expect them to come back in the next couple of months. There has been a question, I'm not sure if it was here or where, but on the road cut on 9 and the alignment of their road cut with Patriot Way across the road, with the requirement we gave them is that that had to be specifically addressed in MDOT's reply to us. So MDOT has to specifically say, we looked at this and we're sure it's safe. And Calvin's looked at it and said he thinks it is, and we're willing to spend some money engineering if necessary, but kind of put the ball in MDOT's court to say the left turns line up correctly, it's a safe intersection, which I know that was a problem on another.
But isn't any engineering cost incurred by the applicant, not?
It would be, yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it would be his, if we did an engineering review of that, it would be, so.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
But I think we're comfortable that if MDOT, and if they don't, then we'll send it back to our plan reviewer, who will take a good look at it, so. And had there been any real doubt, we would have just gone to that, in that route to begin with.
Yep.
So that is that one. We are also working on 2 articles on changing of ordinances. One is the Affordable Housing Act, and I'm sure have all heard that one, but basically the state said you have to allow higher additional living units on lots. And so the town planner has taken a look at a couple of options there. One is basically just taking the state verbiage and inserting it into our ordinance. And kind of as a refresher, what the state has said, that if it's an empty lot, you have to allow 2 units on it. There's no arguments, as long as it's septic works and all those other things work. If there's a single-family house on there, you have to allow 2 additional units on that lot. And so if you have 2-acre lot with a single-family home on it, the state law says you can allow up to 2 additional living units.
I didn't realize that. I thought it was 1 addition for a total of 2.
No, it's I guess I should have started with, it is, at best, very muddy as to what they're requiring. And so George has been working hard with Maine Municipal, some of the other towns to see what they're going to do, and there's still a lot of confusion on that. But it could be, if you have a single-family home, they could put 2 additional living units. And I'm using the term living unit because part of it is it's not defined as to what it can be. So there's the accessory apartment, which is your mother's garage, apartment above the garage, you add on, or it could be additionally a tiny house or up to another 1,000 square foot house.
Will the ordinance, will it address, or does it need to address how, like, taxes are assessed in those situations? Like, you've got land and buildings, so if there's, like, multiple units, does one person's, and it's one lot, and the lot's not being divided, does one person still own the lot and we're only assessing on a building to some people, or how do?
I think it's very unclear as to whether.
Yeah.
It doesn't allow for subdividing the lot, as best we can
Okay,
tell.
all right, so.
That
So,
would be the case.
Yep.
you know, like our house, if we decided to convert one of the many garage, building the barn out there to an apartment, it would still be a rental. I couldn't, sell the barn as much as I might want to.
Well, you know, I'm very curious, like, so let's say, you know, they own a lot, they build an accessory structure on it that they sell that to somebody, but they still own the land, and then
No different than a trail.
and they sell, you know, the original, and the new owner's like, I don't want an accessory on there. I mean, but they own the land, but they don't own the building, so what if?
Particularly if you buy an accessory structure on somebody else's land.
Yeah.
You would do a land lease for, at minimum, typically you'd
So
want
there's
50 years,
mechanisms to-
typically.
There would probably,
In the commercial world.
Yeah,
I've never done it in the residential world, but I've done it in the commercial world.
this
And-
just reeks of unintended consequences
well,
coming down the road.
it is so unclear that I would agree. Our ordinance does not allow for an accessory apartment.
Right.
Right, yeah.
And so, you know, right now we could do it, but that's traditionally been above the garage.
And it's not a sale, it's not a transfer.
It's a rental, exactly.
Or it's just a freebie. Right?
It's, yeah, it's-
Two extra houses.
Right.
It could be 3 houses.
it could be.
On a 2-acre lot.
But
How
they
would you
still
call
have
it?
to meet septic and
Septic
well and all
does.
that
It
stuff.
does. But it's, so we figure it's gonna be a talked about event. So what I haven't gotten into yet is, I'll cover the other issue that no, that's okay. I mean, we have these conversations and you're all invited to the 12th of October event. But the other issue we were taking on, or still gonna take on, is roads going to back lots, and which leads to the discussion of the width of the road. And we've decided to punt on that, on the width of the road issue, whether it's 20 or it's 16, for the simple reason that a back lot is a lot. So if you have a back lot, you sell that lot, they could put 3 living units back there. So we're kind of used to one house. Now all of a sudden we have the potential for 3 living units in.
So the 20-foot would stay.
Well, it might, and that's kind of what we want to make sure is that, not necessarily, if we can figure out a way to say, okay, you can have 16 as long as it's one unit, one living
Single
unit back there.
dwelling, yeah.
And then, but we want to, the unintended consequences, I think what we want to do is say, what can they put back there? Because we use the term backlot, which is at the end of the day, is the same as a lot. And so it has the same rights or whatever for the number of units on that
So
sucker.
will this supersede our subdivision ordinances then?
Yes.
So this is,
I think the legislature should look at it again, but that's
Yeah.
just me.
At the risk of being too political, it's what happens when somebody at a state level
Yeah.
tries to dictate to a
You
town.
mean the additional units supersede?
yeah, I mean, I
Not the
got a
road thing.
3-acre lot, you're telling me I can put 2 more houses on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's sort of by right. I mean, at the end of the
In my
day,
subdivision that was only supposed to have 19 lots.
and
But you have covenants.
And I have covenant, well, yeah, you probably do, but does that supersede those?
those I don't know. That question I don't know, but it does, and that's the confusion. What we're trying to avoid is going down a road that you could just say, well, we're just not gonna do anything, screw the state. But if somebody says, I wanna put, my son's gonna be in one apartment, my daughter's gonna be in the other apartment, I want 2 apartments, or I want 2 tiny houses, the very simple is they sue the town and say, the state law says we're allowed to do this. We got the right spacing, our septic passes, our well passes, and so we're just we wanna come up with something that doesn't overdo it. It doesn't allow too much flexibility, but does follow the state law.
One of the things that came up at town meeting that some people got hung up on when we started talking about the roads was with the elimination of the Southwest Bend district, the language that detailed what would or wouldn't be accepted as a town road was gone. And that, and so that even though there was no mechanism, there's nothing in the ordinance that requires the board to accept a town road, I think people want to see something in black and white that says, And it could be as simple as, no private way can be, no private way can be adopted as a town road, without a vote at town meeting.
That is, and that is still in there. The only thing we're probly not gonna chase is the 16
Well,
foot.
that wasn't in there,
I'm
but that's in
sorry.
the new draft.
In the
That
new
was-
draft,
okay,
yeah,
great,
we're
great.
taking that forward. I
Good.
think it was a couple of meetings ago, you all mentioned you'd like to see that. So it will
Okay.
state specifically that private roads must be, cannot, before they become public, must be accepted at town meeting. It can
Yeah.
only,
And that's the way it's always been.
Right. Yeah, but
Before.
it's been the convention, but it was never like articulated in the,
and it's not, we're gonna try to make it a little clearer. I think it's in there, but it's not in there.
Yeah.
And part of our cleaning up is to kind of get things in, so they make sense and they're in one place. Like the road commissioner, if it passes, obviously, but the road commissioner would approve, road agreements. So if you have, a private road agreement, right now it has to come to the plan commission. What we're recommending is it go to the road commissioner because he's the one who has to, he has to enforce it and versus the plan commission,
It
so.
would be far easier if you had a boilerplate agreement that you all agree is going to work, instead of sending somebody to a lawyer to draw it up again, draw it up again, draw it up again, until it makes satisfaction with the planning board.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think we did
Much
that to a couple,
Yeah.
and I don't say it wasn't deliberate, but they came in, and what the other thing that makes a huge difference is a kudos to the town planner. When we did that, it was in a transition, and who in the office was doing that stuff. So I think the George has made himself very accessible to people, and so he's there, and we have, and they tried, the board did, to say, here's an example, but we want to be more user-friendly, is what I'm trying to say here, so that this is an example. They come into the town planner, because it's really the same. It changed the name of the road and maybe the number of lots on it, and I suppose in that case, they had some additional issues. They didn't want to charge, they didn't want to have it clear who was gonna, it was gonna be family, so we don't want to say we're gonna charge anybody. Well, 20 years from now, one of your sons may walk away and it's no longer, so that was part of it, but we want to make it clear that this is gonna be the rules, and so hopefully, and we'll work with Calvin to make sure there's a fill-in-the-blank kind of draft that's available to folks.
Okay.
And then, so I think, so the timing of this, 12 October is going to be our public comment meeting. And so not the real, true, official public meeting, but it'll be a public comment meeting on affordable housing and roads. We're going to do it at the fire department. I think we've still got to schedule that. We'll use their training room because they can stream and do all kinds of good stuff over there. So that will be the public comment on this, and then one of the members came up with a good idea, which is have a table at the next election where we can say, here's what the plan is for, what thoughts are for affordable housing and road, and then the other two issues out there are still Historical Commission and the Conservation Commission. So our goal is 12 October, have our public comments, take some addition, say, okay, it's still open, but by early December, start putting something together that can be taken to you all and say, this is what we'd like as the article. Have an article that can go to the public hearing in January, and I'll work with the town manager to say, that'll work, that gives me enough time to announce and do all the stuff you've got to do. So there'll be 2 articles ready to go for all the public notice for the first weekend of April, or first Saturday in April. But 12 October, 6 PM at the fire station is the public comment. And I think just for the questions, there's gonna be the same kind of questions, which is, oh, wow, does that mean I could put 3 tiny houses on my thing, or 3 houses? Or, crap, can my neighbor put 3 houses on my property? So it'll go both ways, I'm sure. And then George has been working with the Historical and Conservation Commission, and they kind of need to follow the same timeline. So they need to say, either middle of October or the second week as elections come, everybody gets busy, election comes up. So really, the goal for them should be, and I think that's what they're working towards. Early December, they've got something they put together as an article. George has been working with them to help put that verbiage together. They'll bring it to you all to say, this is what we're gonna do. So that's resource protection, the maps.
Yep.
And then historical commission kind of defining, it's a bigger issue, maybe in defining their role and how they want to serve going forward without putting words in their mouth. So that's what we're doing. And so if you got any questions, you're welcome to sit in on the 12th of October and see what we come up with there, at least the initial ideas.
Do you know if there's any minimum square footage on these auxiliary units in relationship to the existing?
There is I think it has to be comparable, like I think our ordinance is 1,200 square feet, so it can't be bigger than that. The existing small house, tiny house, says 400 square feet. So right now, you could put 400 square feet on an empty lot, 400 square foot home on an empty lot. By the definition, there was a state law that's, I guess, a year old, that's allowed that for a while.
So if you had like a 1,500 square foot home, could an auxiliary home
I think
exceed that?
No, I think the limit is no greater than, it may even be 1,200. So you couldn't come in and put a McMansion
Right.
on that lot.
Okay, that's what I was
Would be
just
the-
sort of wondering.
yeah. So, and it's kind of hard, 2 acres is, I mean, you can do it. I mean, you certainly have no gap, but I think these are good. These are going to be probably more rentals.
Right.
Now, somebody could build McMansion and put the kids in the smaller house, I guess.
Auxiliary kind of means to me something smaller than the existing.
I think that's the intent. The intent is affordable housing. I mean, it's all about how can we get more people into homes, and if the state, bless their heart, just dictated, and so, and it is very confusing. And they were supposed to have a group that put out guidance that, that we're still waiting for. But if the state comes back and says, here's the rules, it will be this, and this, we have time at this point to at least say we have to tweak whatever we're recommending to you all. And they may very well do that, or my guess is they didn't know what the heck they were doing when they passed that law. And so whatever seems to make sense, we'll work with them.
Okay. Questions, comments? Thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for all that work. Okay. Town managers report.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The governor has just announced a Efficiency Maine grant opportunity, which looks at lighting, HVAC, refrigeration. I like to look at that. I looked at it online. It's quite an extensive application to fill out. I'm looking at it in terms of lights in these buildings and maybe in parking lots or whatever, and LED lights. And
Is it only for replacing, or can it, that might be too detailed of a question, or it can be like new installation?
I'm looking at the grant, and the grant application is pretty extensive. I mean, when you open it up and fill it out, it looks like our operating budget worksheet in Excel. There's so much to put out. And I'm actually gonna do a webinar tomorrow to look at it a little bit more. But it's all about LED lighting.
Yeah.
And Mitch, or the interim town manager that was here before me, said that there was a resident that was interested in maybe filling that out, so I may reach out to them to see if they want to
You might be
look
better
at
off on your own.
but well, I'm just looking at that, and it may work, and I mean, you have to put in a lot of what your usage is to see if you even qualify, so so it opened up this August, and the deadline for your applications is August 2023, so we got time.
Oh, yeah, okay.
There's a lot of time. I just
Well,
want
if there's one thing, I think we need to do something about lights in this parking lot right here.
Right. I think it can be new and retrofit.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Okay?
Can I interrupt you? I did that before I retired. I was working for a nursing home, and we did that with several of our buildings. And what we did, we actually had a consulting company come to us and say, we'll do all the grant forms, all that other stuff, and they did the work as well. and their payment was what we got out of the grant. And so that took the load off of us and having to worry about getting the grants to have. and
They
then
get paid out of the grant
They got paid, the
proceeds?
deal was, here's the grant proceeds, the saving, what we got was the savings, which were not inconsequential.
And the grantors are okay with that?
They were at that time, and I can't, they may have had to write the check to us, but our contract with the consultant was, we wrote the check to them. But they
Yeah.
did all the work with the payment, and they did all the calculations, said, this is what you're gonna get from the grant, and this is what you can expect to save on an annual basis, which was not, now, a nursing home is 24/7 with a million lights, so it was very significant for us, but, it may be something that to look into. as you
Yeah.
do.
I will, and I'll learn more as I do this webinar, because it's, the application process is quite extensive by looking at it. So I'll do that. So the opera funds that we approved, I'll give you an update on where we are with that. This building here is almost done. That side of it, we've got the heating and cooling going. This side is working, but he's still got a few things left to do, and he should wrap that up by the end of the week. So by next week, this room will be, building will be done, and then he'll move over to the fire department. So things are looking pretty good. He did say he'd be done by the end of September, and it's looking like that's what's gonna happen.
Nice.
That's great.
We have a signed contract to blow the insulation in upstairs, up above, and that'll get done when he's done. I have a contract here, it's for the GIS mapping. I just need authorization on that, or I don't know how you want to handle
What
it,
is
but
that?
it's right here.
Does it,
But I have it as an item on the agenda, but I just want to let you know that's ready to go
Oh,
for the
that's-
GIS
okay.
mapping, so.
yep,
That's
yeah, when
here.
we get to that, yep.
Yeah, and the other one, so the IT stuff, where we are with that, so the phone switch over in this office is gonna happen on September 21st, and then on September 22nd, they're gonna move to fire and public works. And Codes has their new computer already, and we're still waiting for other stuff to come in.
And how about the bandwidth of internet service into this building especially? Is that part of this?
I'll have to ask Devin if that was part, I don't know.
Okay.
To be honest with you. It would be good if it was.
Okay.
So that's kind of where those, yes.
Yes, phones are on the same order. They'll do it the same day, internet and phones.
Okay,
So here first, then fire and public works.
awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
So
Great
things
job.
are going pretty good with those.
Yep.
With those funds.
Good.
On that. The other thing is that we do have some vacancies on some boards and committees. I put something out on the website. I think we have a couple vacant seats on the budget committee. That's gonna be a little bit more of a vetting process where it's an elected,
Well, yeah, it's, so those two vacancies are, we had two members resign after town meeting. And so when that happens, this board appoints a replacement, potentially for, it's not even the remainder of the term, it's just for this year until the next election comes around. And I know, Lois was in her last year anyway. I don't know about Lee, but, anyway, both of those would go up for, if Lee's term was not over, then the election, I believe the election would be for the remainder of her term, not a full 3-year term. So, so anyway, the short answer, or short statement is we have 2 seats, and, you know, if nobody comes forward, there's no reason the budget committee can't go with 7, you know, I mean, some, you know, might argue that 7's a better number anyway, but, we'll see what we get.
yeah. There's an alternate seat on the appeals board, and CIP has, I think, 2 missing, or I have to look.
Yeah, at least 2 open seats.
Yeah,
Two
there's-
seats there.
I believe it might be 3.
So there's-
depending on-
Sorry to interrupt one more time. We just found out one of the planning board members is probably gonna resign, so I asked him to confirm
Oh, okay.
that he is good, and I'm pretty sure he will. and we've asked an alternate to move up into the primary, he is gonna,
Well, so, that, we have to do that.
oh, okay.
So, yeah, so if you have an open, seat, then you let us know, and then we pick which alternate would.
Gotcha.
You give us your recommendation.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say, is we'll
Yeah.
give you, but I want to make sure he's interested before we even
Yeah,
brought it up, so, but we'll have an open seat on the planning. board.
Okay, all right.
So the vacancies on the board seem to be like the weather, so we'll see what tomorrow brings. Yeah. So, to get our hands around it. But that, anyway, we posted that on the website, so folks will know that there's some vacancies, and if they're interested, they can come in, or maybe you folks know some people.
Yeah, if you know, especially with the budget committee ones, especially if you know somebody that, yeah, they think, maybe they were interested, but they don't want to maybe commit to 3 years out of the gate, it's a good opportunity to kind of try it on and see if it fits, and see if they like it, and,
They can just reach out to you?
Sure, yeah, they can just let me
Yeah,
know,
so
and I'll
it-
let you know.
and then he'll bring potential, people interested to us for potential appointment, so.
The budget, like I said, the budget committee one, there's a few questions that I've asked the folks who are interested to answer, and, when they do that, I'll share that with you.
Yeah.
And it'll be up to you folks to look those over and appoint who you'd like.
Okay, good.
That's basically all I have really as far as the report right now, anyway.
Okay. All right, let's roll into number 6 then, discussion of the ARPA project selection process. So this is a continuation of our discussion from our last meeting, where we started to talk about what the process might look like for allocating the remaining ARPA funds. It's just a smidge over $300,000. And our discussion last week centered a lot on nonprofits and what role they might have in ARPA funds, and if they have a role, how they would apply. And ideas were floated that maybe we'll even the town departments would fill out the same application as nonprofits, but discussion that seemed to lose some steam as discussion went on. I know you've had some discussions with other towns and how
Right.
they're approaching it, so what did you learn?
And let me, I also called Androscoggin County about these ARPA funds, and basically, essentially what happened was the state gave the municipalities and the county money. And the small businesses and nonprofits could have petitioned the county to get some money. And matter of fact, some of them did, and they had until last April to do that. And then it closed. And the lady that I spoke to at Androscoggin County said they may open it up again, where there might be an opportunity for them to petition them for some money.
Back to the county,
To the county.
to the county, at the
Right.
county level.
And even municipalities can petition the county too, but even though the municipalities got their own money. Municipalities that I talked to, the municipality that I worked for before I came here, they're basically taking their money and they're spending it on their municipal capital needs. I've talked to a couple other town managers, one in Union. They're doing the same thing, and the reason why they're doing it is to offset taxes, to supplement the taxes, so you don't have to raise tax monies to fix these capital projects. So that's what I'm hearing, and I actually talked to the guy that we do business with at the bank, who was the next town manager. He came to visit me, and I asked him what he's seen out there, and he's hearing the same things, that most municipalities are taking that money and putting it towards capital needs for the municipality. So you have that. So depending on what the board wants to do and how they want to move forward will drive me in rather how I design an application process. So I've got one ready to go, but I don't know, we have to decide, or you folks have to decide how you wanna handle those funds. And
Did you have
I'll throw my 2 cents in, since I wasn't here last week to do it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I understand the desire for the nonprofits to get a portion of those funds. And if there's money left, I think they should. but I think that we need to focus on town needs first, because that's, what's gonna be best for the townspeople, the majority. And, when they're doing things like trying to bring back the old home days, you wanna give to them, but I think that's where we have to make our priority. And if there's any leftover from what we spend on the town, if we don't spend it all, then I think opening it up to the nonprofits is appropriate. But I think at this point, we need to focus on the town and
I do too.
Offset our capital,
Yeah.
and in some way to, I mean, again, I feel for the nonprofits, but yeah, you'd probably end up giving $1 to everybody at that point. There's probably enough nonprofits around here. That probably wouldn't make sense, and it doesn't necessarily help everybody involved in the town, the town itself. And that is, I agree, that's what we're here for, is to use that money for town purposes. And if there's something left over, or there's some noble thing that we should be doing collectively as a town to help one of these nonprofits or one of these other entities, then sure, let's consider that. But yeah, I would say focus on the capital budget, the things that are brought to CIP. Coming up here in this next session would be a really good list of things to look at. It could even offset a truck coming up,
Yeah.
which is a huge price tag on these trucks, as we know. So that would help us out budget-wise for a long time.
Yep.
I think it would benefit the most people to use it for town
Yeah.
work,
I know. That's
You guys
where
know my
are.
opinion.
Yeah. I would agree. I think, as I thought more about it, I thought of, the fact that, for the last at least 2 budget cycles, we've taken the donations article off the town warrant, because it was only like $500 or whatever, but we would spread it around to a handful of charities and whatever. And it's funny, that was always one of the most discussed things on the warrant. But finally, I think we came to the conclusion, it's like, should we really be taking taxpayer money that is intended to meet the municipal functions and needs of the town and giving it to a nonprofit? When, like, if somebody wants to give to a nonprofit, they can give to a nonprofit on their own. They don't need us to be the middleman to do that. And much like other, nonprofits in town, if an organization needs to raise money for a particular purpose, then they can raise money for that purpose. Now, we'll point out to people, because I know, people say, there's some people that are not going to like if this is where we land, this result. But I think it's sound and responsible. But for instance, it doesn't take potentially, if the old town hall out of the equation, because that's a town-owned building. Right. So that, if that ended up as a priority for people, then money could be spent on that. It would take out some of the other groups that have mentioned an interest in funds. It would basically make them ineligible, not ineligible, but the board is making a statement that we're not going to consider them at this time. That the priorities are right. The priorities are for the town.
The county might.
The county might,
Right.
right?
So there are other options.
Or other grants, capabilities.
Funny that the county offered that, at that, it almost seems like that was on purpose. They offered that at that level to deal with it at a higher level rather than push it down to the
Perhaps,
towns.
yeah, perhaps.
Which is interesting that they even considered that. It might have been a smart move to avoid everybody rushing after the cash later at a lower level.
That seems strange that nobody even knew about it. And you
Right.
didn't realize the county got money.
Right.
Most businesses, I can only speak for myself, I'm in quite a few counties and towns. Towns have sent letters, and so has the, if you were eligible, you could apply for monies. I mean, whether it was Brunswick or Yarmouth or as far up as Lincoln, up in Booth Bay, they were soliciting people to try to get these monies, mostly from the county. Brunswick did some stuff for like restaurants and stuff, and for their Main Street program to offset some of their burden from COVID. But there's a lot of money out there, especially for nonprofits. I think just recently, in the last month or two, Fame, which is a big bank of Maine, I mean, I think they acquired like 60 million or a lot of money. And that money is basically a loan, and then you are forgiven on your loan, almost kind of like a PPP loan. You have to, it's mostly, the people that are going to qualify that are a lot of nonprofits and people who can really show some financial hardship during the COVID months. But there's a lot of money out there for nonprofits and private businesses that they could obtain outside of this ARPA funds, where the town doesn't have a lot of resources, other than the resources that have just been given them through ARPA funds to acquire any more funds, really.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm hearing kind of a unanimous consensus that in terms of the list of projects we might put before the town at town meeting in April, that at least initially we're not considering requests from nonprofits. Do I have that right?
Yes.
Okay. So that takes us to, okay, then what is the process? And Jerry and I were talking a little bit before the meeting, and I still think that there needs to be that public input process on, because there's a wide spectrum of things within the town that we could use that money for. So I would throw out there as a starting point for discussion, do we have a couple of meetings, and it could just not separate, elaborate, get the school type things, but just here as an extension of our regular meeting, public input sessions, like, initially, like, bring us your ideas, like, somebody might say, I think we should build a soccer field, or I think we should renovate the second floor of the Eureka Center so we can actually use it, or whatever somebody might have, or refurbish the ladder truck, or buy a new truck or excavator for public works, whatever it is, gather all those ideas over the course of a couple of input meetings, and then from that come up, you have a list, and it might be 10 to 15 things, who knows, and then have another meeting, another opportunity for public input to say, well, okay, so here's kind of like the list, but this list totals like $1.5 million, and we've only got 300,000. What do people think is, what's most important to people, and try to get some sense of where the public is, or where people are for priorities. And then that would be input for us to consider, because ultimately our role is going to be to decide which projects are we going to put before voters for approval at town meeting. Because that's they all, just like we did with a special town meeting, the expenditures have to be approved at town meeting. Did you have a question?
Well, I would just say that I would start by soliciting input from the department heads, and then having a list to the first meeting, saying, this is what they see as a priority.
As a starting point?
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
That's how I would do it, but otherwise, I think it's a great plan.
Here's what town manager and department heads have, what other ideas, I think that's.
Yeah, and have them prioritize what they've come up with, and then gather input not only on that, but other projects that other people might have.
Yep.
So we're just entering into CIP now, so that's gonna happen anyways with
Right.
department heads.
And that's where I was gonna go with it, the same thing. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, that's
And
a
like Jerry alluded to, a lot of towns are using this for capital infrastructure improvements, et cetera, and so forth. So if you got the town department heads together, maybe with a meeting or two with the CIP committee, that those particular bodies could make a presentation to the select board, and then we could go from there.
Yeah, one, because I've been thinking about how this intersects with the budget process is, especially the CIP process, could be a little bit, complicated, or it could offer an opportunity. So
That's what I'm thinking of, opportunity.
What I'm thinking is that if depending on what's out, like for instance, how does the chief say, well, this is my CIP request, but this is my ARPA request. You know, do we really need to distinguish between those
I
two?
don't
Or
think
here's
you
my
do.
capital needs, and then, because
Right.
part of me is thinking that because we can't use ARPA funds to contribute to capital reserves,
Right.
right? What we could do is that we're basically any capital projects to a large degree, as much as possible, fund those as much as possible out of ARPA or completely,
Right.
but still look to raise the comparable amount of tax revenue that we would have
For
been putting
future.
all in
Yeah,
reserves.
exactly.
And because we know we're a little behind in reserves.
Yeah.
So it's a tremendous catch-up opportunity.
It is, yeah.
If we fund the actual projects with the ARPA funds, but what we raise goes into reserves.
Yeah.
No, I always go back to, the challenge of, the statement of we're always behind in capital. You know how I believe in the capital funds. I'm not a big fan of storing all this money for 25 years down the road and things of that nature. It is. But I think the CIP, you're right, the opportunity is there where, the chief has his, capital needs, and so does Calvin for say, and then maybe a portion of whatever that capital needs is divided by the ARPA funds that are, for that particular year. And then if the townspeople want to throw some more money in the piggy bank at 0% interest or whatever they want to get from it, go for it. But
We're not at 0% interest
you might get
anymore.
1.5 points.
Yeah, no, I hear your point. And so capital it's about saving, but it's also about leveling the tax impact across years. That's what it's really about, yeah. So,
And CIP, we need some members, so that'll help with
Yeah.
paying additional.
or else it's just you and
Probably-
Paul.
Yeah, exactly, right, exactly. It's just Paul and I at this point.
Yeah.
So a couple more people to that committee would help out
Yeah.
with the whole rating and ranking process that we go through.
I do think it would be nice outside of, if, let's say you had the department head entities for say, if there was maybe something in there that was just focused on a community project, whether it's revamping a river park or adding some type of structure or doing something at Runaround Pond, something that the community actually sees a benefit from right off the bat, that's here to stay in the community versus just, we'll put $40,000 to the new plow truck or $50,000 to a new ladder truck or something like that. Some entity into that.
Something with a little bling factor to it.
Something with a little bling factor, so some of that money's being used and seen for many years to come in the community.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
This particular park bench was brought to you by ARPA funds of 2022. It's just
Yeah.
something of that.
Yeah.
Maybe the same type of bathrooms we have over at the Runaround Pond, at the river park.
I'd have to see the numbers
Yeah.
on how many people use that river park, because I don't see a lot of folks
I-
over there.
There were a bunch of people on the other
People
day.
go in, it's quick hits. They go in there because it's
Go
pretty
for
good
lunch,
fishing down
yeah.
in those rocks in
Yeah,
there.
I was there
Yeah.
one day at noontime, just having a sandwich. Somebody came in with like 5 different paddle boards, canoes. 8 people get out of 2 different
Yeah.
cars and headed
It's
out.
actually a
the
pretty
river.
good little hand launch down there,
Mm.
Yeah.
hand carry launch.
I guess it is.
Paddleboarding
I
on
saw
that
it.
river or canoeing.
I know.
It's a little dangerous. You
I
probably
know.
should invest in a sign saying this is ill-advised. Canoeing.
It's great paddling.
Canoeing, I'm all right, but
Pre-college
paddle
years.
boards and so forth, I don't know about that on that river.
With a paddleboard, I'd be more worried about the concussion because the water's only about this
Yeah,
deep.
exactly.
There's so many
Exactly.
treacherous things on that river in that area.
Come back.
But yeah, I think.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. So, so the next step, I guess it'd be 2 next steps. One would be, putting together the, at least initial list from department heads of the town, just, a brief description and a rough price tag. I mean, I don't think we need firm bids or anything at this point. If we got them, great, but,
We can use the same CIP application.
yep, that's what I would do.
Yep.
Yep, and then like Josh said, then we have kind of a starting point. It's like, okay, we got $300,000, and let's. I mean, it's not gonna take much to spend $300,000 again.
And I think people are looking at $300,000 now, like, that's like 3 million, it's not, in today's world,
It's just not. Yeah.
sorry to say, it's not a lot of money.
Right, so.
I didn't know if, and I'm sure you'd know better, I know you'd know better if this is even possible, but, we go through this whole process with the CIP, the budget, and the select board, if, when all that is all breaking down, it's just, in this way, the people really have, the select board recommends $40,000 of ARPA funds to fund this, budget committee recommends this, and I'm sure somebody from the town will throw their 2 cents in, that it's actually just incorporated into the town warrant when we do it.
Right.
You mean put it,
We'll earmark funds for those capital with ARPA funds, like maybe we'll have a selection.
that's what the question, it would be just like
Right.
special town meeting.
Yeah.
The question, then that's what we'll have to decide, like, are we going, because we always have to specify the funding source in the warrant article, right? Are we
Sure.
raising it, are we transferring it, or are we whatever?
Using ARPA.
So this would be like,
Multiple
Third
choice.
line.
oh,
Yeah,
Do
this
a
would be a third
multiple
line.
choice.
boy, that could really complicate things for
It
sure.
could,
Yeah, it would.
but you'd want a backup plan for like a CIP type item for still funding it.
Wouldn't you want to ask it in separate questions, though?
Or you
Well, no,
could ask it separate.
Well, you could,
So what?
I was just thinking, like, if you, let's say a fire truck, sorry, chief, was on the thing, and, we had $300,000, select board recommends $100,000 out of capital, raise 150 and use 50,000 of ARPA funds.
I don't think- Can you do that?
You can do that. You can, you probably would, well, I think you could do that, because you just need to have the voter, it just needs to be approved by the voters.
Right, that's why it's on the
And so
ballot.
you
everybody
could,
raises-
I thought you were getting at a third recommendation, like,
That's
you know,
what I
the
thought.
budget
Yeah, no,
committee
no,
recommends.
no, sorry, I didn't articulate that very well. No, I was just saying the select boards, to fund this particular project, a capital project, the select board recommends raising X, using X from capital, and, is asking to use, 20,000 out of ARPA funds to fund the rest or something like that.
Doesn't that, though, get away from, what you brought up about the adding money to the reserve funds if ARPA, which is why
Potentially, but then you're gonna have to convince, either way, you're gonna have to convince the people to add money to a fund.
Right.
That would
Yeah,
be,
adding
that'd
to a
be
reserve fund would definitely be a separate question.
separate
Right,
question.
so that definitely would be a separate question.
Is that what you're asking, or?
Well, I guess I'd have to see it worded, but
Yeah.
what I would envision now is having the ARPA question and then having a separate question with it either, fully funded, however.
Yeah.
And so that if ARPA funds are approved, then you could say, so this
Vote
was the
down the other one,
recommendation.
yeah.
Here's what is now needed, the remainder would go, and then you can lower it if needed.
I would defer to Kevin. I don't see how you could separate it as a question. I think it would have to be on 3, because then you'd have to go back to the next question if one didn't
Yeah,
pass.
because what if they approve the ARPA funds,
Right.
but you need more money and they reject that, then you're stuck.
Right, so it almost has to be one question, and then let somebody make the amendment. Well, I won't give 40 out of ARPA, but we'll give 20, and let's raise another 20
Well, the
out of it.
thing about the way that MMA put it out there and the way we did it at the special town meeting is that the articles were constructed as what's called closed articles versus open articles. In a closed article, there's no amending the amount. It's yes or no.
I'm fine with that, too.
Yeah, that's how that was the MMA wording for the ARPA thing, because part of it is there's this completely separate accounting and tracking for the ARPA stuff. So keeping that as clean as possible certainly helps the staff out, and helps, in
Yeah.
whatever paperwork we need to submit to the Treasury or whomever it needs to be submitted to. So my simplified thought is that we would have, X number of projects, say 6 maybe, and that the total cost of those projects, if they were all approved, would be approaching $300,000. And each one you would ask, just like we did in a special town meeting, do you approve using X dollars of ARPA funds for this purpose? Yes or no? And if they say yes to everything, then the money's allocated. If they say no to something, then that's a pool of money that we still have to be allocated some other way.
Right.
And we still have, which could be done via another special town meeting if necessary, or it could wait all the way to the 24 town meeting, because you have until December 31st, 24 to allocate, and then the end of year 26 to actually have spent it. So,
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I go either way. I was just trying to give transparency, Jerry, right?
Right.
As much participation to the town as possible,
Yeah.
where the money's earmarked to.
and I think once a direction on that might present itself a little bit more
Sure.
clearly once we have the actual projects, you know,
Yep.
and how much they cost. Like it might be that, you know, like for instance, you know, and again, I'm just making something up, but let's say we were gonna buy a $500,000 fire truck. Okay, we can't get there with the opera
$200,000
funds alone, right? So then it'd be like, okay, we asked for 300,000 ARPA and then the rest, however, some
Right.
other way.
Raise
Then
the
it would
rest,
probably
right.
be combined, but it'd be combined in the question, but it would still have to be tracked separately. But that's not really that different than we do now when we have raised funds and transferred funds that we transfer funds that we appropriate.
Then you might be getting out of the closed question, though.
Yeah, we might have to, well.
But this is all a
Yeah.
future discussion anyway.
It is,
but-
you're right, but
Yeah.
not necessarily. We could just say, you can still put a fixed amount funded this way, yes or no.
Right.
So, okay, all right, so I think next step is to start gathering the list, at least from the town department head point of view, and, we should probably,
Do you want the department heads to differentiate between what's opera and what they want to fund with opera, or just keep it?
I don't think so. I think
Okay.
they're bringing us their capital requests, and
Okay.
then we'll talk about how it gets funded.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
So,
Would it hurt to ask the county for more ARPA money for the town?
When,
Could we
so,
ask or?
right, so when they open it, when and if they open it back up,
Mm.
so when I talked to the woman at the county, she took my email. And if they open it back up, she's gonna email everybody that's on her list that there is now money available to.
Did you talk to the treasurer?
Can't remember her name. Yeah, it wasn't the treasurer. of the
Probably the
county.
treasurer, yeah.
Yeah, it was the I can't remember her name, but it wasn't the treasury of Androscoggin County.
did she give you any indication about what might be a qualifying request or what the criteria are or anything
Nope,
like that?
nope. She
think
just said
the
when they
one
open
it'd
it
be-
back up, they.
Have you used all yours?
Right? I know.
We haven't figured out how you used all yours, why are you asking us for more?
Because this is
Can't
government,
hurt
man.
that.
You don't need a reason to ask for money. You just ask.
Maybe therein lies the problem.
I know.
It's our money.
But no, but we are on the list when they do open it back up, so. I'll know,
Alright.
I'll let you know.
Can't hurt to ask.
So are we gonna open it up at least, I mean, other than the departments, asking for any input from folks in town in regards
Yeah, yeah. So
to-
that's the first
So
couple
they-
meetings I talked about.
Okay,
yeah.
all right, I missed.
Yep, so we would, and we can, maybe our first meeting in October, we try to have our
First input meeting?
first input meeting. And then at that point, does that give you enough time to have the initial capital list from department heads and what you have?
They're supposed to get the applications to me by October 1st.
Yeah, so that works with that. Then,
Yeah.
so they'll have done
Right.
that work already anyway.
Yeah.
Right,
And we'll have, our first meeting in October, yeah, Chief's ready now.
yeah.
So,
Early bird gets the
Hey,
worm.
sometimes that's how it works, the first
Yeah,
ask
right.
gets the most money, right?
somebody called in an emergency of a tree down somewhere.
Too bad, too sad.
Yeah, that works good.
Okay.
That gives me a week to pull it
So
off.
we'll want to get the word out there, and we also need to get the word out that we're not considering requests from nonprofits at this time, because otherwise you're going to have a bunch of people showing up and asking. We're probably going to hear it at public comment next meeting on people that don't like that
Yep.
decision.
That's okay.
But it comes with the territory.
That's why they pay you guys the big money.
That's right.
And then I would think that any other idea we come up with would go on the same CIP form, because that's pretty much got everything you need on there now to kind of justify.
Yeah, because I think once, that would, one thing we said, once we once we kind of have like a draft list of potential projects, then we could scan all those and put them on the website before we have the meeting where we're gonna ask people for what they think, what do they think their priorities are, and they could see all the things ahead of time and know, then they could come informed. The other thing we can do, and I'll insert it here in the discussion, is we do have the opportunity with a large election in November to do some survey questions. And I already spoke to the town clerk about it to make sure it wouldn't be too burdensome on her, and it wouldn't. So it wouldn't be the electronic ballot like type of thing. We could just make up our own thing. So when somebody comes into the election center, they get their actual real voting ballot, then we'd also hand them a survey. And then the survey, they could put in the wooden Durham ballot box, and the other ballots go to the electronic counting machines. And because we wouldn't need the results of the survey that night, or even, we could wait a week, whatever, she says that would give her plenty of time to tabulate the results of the survey. So we could ask questions related to ARPA, just to get another opportunity for input. We could ask questions like, how people feel about, would you, I'm making this up, would you generally be in favor of an ordinance that restricted fireworks usage to, major holidays like the 4th of July and New Year's Eve? And get a sense of where people are on that, and there might be other, there might be stuff the planning board would want to ask, we'd want, it'd have to be fairly simple, get opinion, and what that might do is inform, what we might want to put out there for questions or not at town meeting. Yeah.
If I could, George talked to Devin at the end of our last meeting, and Devin said it may be possible to do one of those Survey Monkey, that, he's got the capability to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's just another data point, more information. The beauty of doing it at the election is you could get like 2,000 responses. So we did that.
Survey Monkey, I would have been.
Yeah, we did that with the marijuana questions it was 2018 election, I guess. And it ended up not telling us much because it was pretty 50-50. It was really close, but that's okay. I mean, I think what we're looking for is, like, if we ask a particular question and it's like 70-30, 80-20, a particular way.
Stop wasting time.
Stop wasting time, right? Yeah. So.
Yeah. I did want to say, though, what I don't want to see happen is have us, how do I say it, the capital improvements that the department heads are going to submit. I mean, they are improvements that we will need. So I don't want to pit the ARPA money against, folks to say, well, should have spent ARPA money on that instead of capital money. That we still need to go do these projects. They're going to be rated accordingly, and there could be, there's only been a handful every year, 4 or 5 items, and I believe most of those have passed in past years. And that we don't want to end up in a situation where you're having the department heads compete against the ARPA interests.
So I think that's a great point, and it might come out like in the CIP process. I think that process continues on, here's the list of what we see as the priorities, and then the board will have a discussion. We might say, you know what, we want to just go standard capital on this one, and this one's kind of, we want to use ARPA for this one. I mean, I think we're on the same page there. And then the only thing I was
get messy there.
The only thing I was thinking is if we felt we were able to comfortably use ARPA funds to fund the capital needs, then we could still raise capital funds, but put it in reserve instead of immediately, allocated to a specific project. So that's just an option, but there's lots of options, lots of approaches.
I just want to make sure we still keep that somewhat separate.
Yep. Well, you're one of two guys on a two-man committee, so you have opportunity to influence that. So- Yeah.
I don't know, we ain't gonna get a vote.
So, okay. All right. So I think we're in a good spot on ARPA, at least as far as next steps and,
Right, John?
you know,
No, I know Chief stayed around, did he want to have a conversation?
No, I stayed just to listen, learn.
Okay.
See the flavor.
All right. Okay, then we'll move on to,
Looking
item
for a big
7,
red truck.
authorization to sign contract with Spatial Alternatives. This is the GIS mapping system, right?
Yes. So we have a contract. It was here before I got here. This one was signed by Judy Kobe George on August 5th.
Yep. And
So it's a contract for $12,500.
Does that include the 2 years of,
That's less than,
yeah, wasn't it like 16,000 or something like that?
I think it was 16. Oh, it goes back in the kitty.
Yeah.
That's what George and Donna both gave me.
Yeah.
She was asking about that, and that's what George said. Here's the contract that we need signed.
The signing is there, from the submitter.
Smitter has already signed.
Okay.
I don't think this contract includes the 2 years of service. I think that's why,
that's probably a separate contract once they get everything up and running, right? So that we don't start our 2 years when they're not providing the service.
yeah.
True. May take some time to do what they need to
Okay,
do.
you just, so, but for ARPA tracking purposes, you're probably gonna, need to make sure that however we're gonna document that is kosher within the ARPA program.
Okay.
And it might be cleanest to, since the ARPA funds have already been approved, to put the first 2 years of service in the contract and just pay it all up front. I don't know.
But like Josh said, it may take 6 or 8 months for them to get it up, ready to run.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So the warranty
It'll be-
wouldn't start, or the service
Service
wouldn't
wouldn't
start
start
until later, right?
Yeah, but you would,
They
that's
can- you
fine.
can
It
put
would
that
be-
language in
That's,
there.
that's what the
Just
language
put
would be.
the-
Once it's up and running, we have 2 years of service.
Yeah.
Yeah. As long as it says that.
Yeah, I think that needs to be in here for, language that, includes the cost for the 2 years of service after the installation, so that it just makes the ARPA tracking cleaner,
Yep.
and it comes out to be,
It's the first I've heard of the 2-year service. I mean, because I wasn't
yeah,
part
reach
of
out
it.
to Mitch on that if you need to, but
But
he-
wouldn't George know though? I mean, he's the one that put this together, right? He's the one that gave it to, he's the one
George
that
or
asked me
Alan?
about it because he said, did George get the contract? And I said,
George?
George said, did Mitch get the contract? And I said, I haven't seen anything. So George gave this to me.
Yeah,
I
so
didn't get this.
the
one.
cost, what we asked for at town meeting was the cost to set it up and the 2 years of service.
Okay.
So somewhere he's got the cost of the 2 years of service, so,
And that's what you think is equaling up to the 16 grand instead of the
yes,
12.5?
yeah.
I don't know what it costs per year, but I know we added a touch of cushion in there just to
Okay.
make sure we were covered.
Right.
That's really a question back to Mitch then.
Yeah, or
George.
George.
Or George. I'll find out. I'll get to the bottom of it. I thought it was all
Knows more
good
about it.
when I got it from him.
Go to the source next
Not
time.
having any history of my own,
Right.
you know?
Okay.
So, yeah, okay, that's that.
All right, next is the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, all right, all in favor? Well,
I had a discussion.
we can, all right, so any member can pull something out for discussion and we can take it off the consent agenda. So, did you want to pull something out?
I just didn't see the application for, the BYOB.
They're here. All right, so we're gonna pull this one out, because the whole idea of a consent agenda is that, it doesn't require discussion. So, those, we'll pull those out. So I'll amend my motion to approve the consent agenda as presented minus, 8D, the applications for BYOB permit. So, who seconded the original one?
Todd.
Todd, you okay with the amended
Yeah,
second? Okay.
absolutely.
All right.
And I'll second.
Oh, that's right, you made the motion.
He moved, he made the motion, I'll second.
And Joseph?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, all in favor? Okay, so we have 5-0 on that. All right, so let's talk about the applications for BYOB permit. We have 3 here. One is at Bliss Farm Inn for an event on 10/29, Harvest Festival and 250th birthday of the Bliss Farm Inn. I'm surprised they don't already have a liquor license. But,
I think we need one right now.
and then the next 2 are the Durham Amvets for a data function October 1st, a cornhole tournament to support energy initiative. I guess they're trying to raise money to maybe make some energy improvements to the Amvets Hall. It's a cornhole tournament. And then, another one, this one's on 9/18, and I'm like waiting till the last minute. A horseshoe tournament, at the Amvets. So we would need, don't sign yet, Todd, because we haven't approved them yet. So,
He threw it in front of me, you know?
so yeah,
It's for a look at, buddy.
so these are the, so these are pretty standard.
Yeah, no, so these came in after all you folks received the packet and email. These just came in like at the very end of last week, and one came in today.
Yeah, we may have to put, and one thing, we may have to put like something out there that, you know, we need, if you need us to review an application, it needs to be submitted like, I don't know, 14 days prior to the next meeting or something. I don't know what it is, you know,
Yeah.
something.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No,
I was just gonna ask, can we make one motion to approve these? Does anybody wanna pull anything out and separately, or?
Yeah, no, it can be one motion to approve all 3.
Behind the building. I see the other one.
Yeah, I think I like your idea, if maybe if just a blanketed, they must be in 5 days before the next select board meeting to be considered or something.
Yeah, because these were all pretty straightforward. I mean, the Amvex has a liquor license of some sort. That I guess it just doesn't cover these events, but one day I was talking to.
This farm needs one.
Yeah, I'm not
Looks
sure
like-
they do either.
Looks like they've got a license for beer, because there's a beer table on the diagram.
Oh.
So there might be something to do with the wine.
Because I find these confusing, because
Separate.
if you notice, the application says BYOB, but
That's
none
why
of
I
those are BYOB events.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm not even sure they're using the right application, but I think that's the one the state tells them to use.
But don't
Because
we
those
get
are state applications.
Don't we get a different one when they're selling, like the farm at the last meeting? See, the Bliss Farm, I think this is more of, I don't see why, I'm not even gonna get into that, but the Amvets, I would think, where they're actually selling it, that's not a BYOB.
I don't know, are they selling?
I'm not
Or
sure.
is it
That's,
They've got a bar downstairs.
Well, I know that they have a liquor license for their members only. That's like a club license or something like that. But it doesn't cover public events,
Yeah,
and those are
and-
public events.
And,
But
yeah, it's
I
not
think,
a
yeah,
BYOB.
it wouldn't hurt to get some, you know, I think these
So-
three are fine, but I think it wouldn't hurt to get some clarification and a better understanding of that process. Like, one, are they even using the right application?
Well, they're saying this is gonna be BYOB upstairs for this event, and they say that downstairs, the bar and lounge area is open to members only.
Oh, I missed that.
So they
Okay.
put that in their little note here on the diagram.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the whole, I'll say the cornhole tourney is gonna be BYOB, and you can use the upstairs, you got the bathrooms, and
Sure.
Got it,
go out
yeah.
and do your cornhole thing.
Yeah, that's another thing. It's like that wedding we had last time. It'd be nice
Yeah.
if the people that were trying to get
Well,
these
that's,
applications
I thought that's.
give a little bit of a background
And I
sometimes.
think that would be, we should somehow say, we recommend that you attend the
Beer
meeting,
table.
where they're gonna review
Yeah,
your
it's funny they
application,
put the beer table separate, so it must be
Yeah.
something. with
That's
the-
what they're showing, a beer table.
The
That's why
beer
I said,
table, and then wine and food
if
is
you're
over here.
providing the beer, that's not a BYOB.
I know, right? So,
Yeah, this is not necessarily a BYOB.
I don't know. That's
I think
that's
we
why,
said
you know, I don't know.
But they're also
Well,
probably
I
not
don't know.
charging for the beer.
I don't know if we need to put a sign out front or something that
It's
if you're
festive.
filing one of these, there may be questions. It would be helpful if you show up.
That's what we were just saying, yeah.
I know, because I know we talked about that last time, but again,
Well-
for these, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Others, I'd have
Okay.
some more questions.
I'm exactly in that same place. I think we need a little bit more clarification on.
I'm good with Moan because of the history of the two parties have always done
Exactly,
everything
exactly.
right.
Yeah, they're fine.
This
yeah,
isn't their
but-
first rodeo, so that's the only reason why I'm good with it.
Right, yep, I think we're all on the same page
Get ready
there.
to sign.
All right, so is there a motion?
Unless you need dates, I would make a motion to approve the two BYOB permits for the Durham AMVets and also for the Bliss Farm.
Okay,
I'll second that motion.
seconds, any further discussion? All in favor? Okay. So those, and we got a bunch of stuff here to sign too. All right, so upcoming meetings, next meetings are September 27th and October 11th here at the town office. And that October 11th meeting will be, we'll have an opportunity for some initial public input on ARPA projects. So it'll be good for, you know, have Kimberly put together a notice for the newsletter and get it on the website, you know, opportunity, you know, to contribute to the ARPA discussion, you know, and see who shows up. All right. So at this point, I'm going to move us into executive.
Go where you-
I'll go.
You good? Executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056A for discussion of personnel matters. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Rich seconds. All in favor? Okay, we're in executive session at 8:10.